Hello and welcome to Neuroshambles, the podcast that aims to shine a light into some of the murkier corners of what it's like to parent neurodivergent kids. I'm Mark Allen, and every episode I'm going to be swapping stories with my guests about some of the frankly ludicrous nonsense we have to deal with on a daily basis. So, if you're anything like me and you're feeling frazzled, overwhelmed and pretty much an outcast from polite society, join me. Hello and welcome to episode 13 of Neuroshambles. Welcome back, Neuroshamblers. Thanks again for joining me. As always, we've got another splendid episode coming up where I'm going to be meeting a guest to discuss a new topic of the week, which will hopefully resonate with a fair few of you, I should imagine. We've also got another poetry corner, some neurodiversity champions, some tiny epic wins, and of course, some classic what the flip moments from my own and my guests' neuroshambolic households. I also wanted to say thank you to everyone who got in touch with their thoughts about the most recent episode, which is the clothing one with Steph Curtis. Seems to have struck a chord with quite a few of you. In particular, Kat, who emailed to say, had to get in touch after listening to the most recent podcast episode as it was so incredibly relatable, especially what you said about Jay struggling to tighten the Velcro straps on his shoes. My kid used to do exactly the same thing and they would never be tight enough. It caused him a lot of angst and he would even stop every few steps to adjust them on the way to school, which, as you can imagine, made the journey pretty lengthy. And that, I totally forgot to mention that part of it. Yeah, that's exactly what Jay does as well. Every now and again, if his shoes are not quite tight enough or something tiny is off with them, he will just stop in the street and take his shoes and socks off and growl at the world. And we have to just kind of wait until he's ready to start again. Fun times. Anyway, thanks for your thoughts there, Kat. I really appreciate you getting in touch. And if anyone else wants to get in touch about something to do with the show, then please feel free to email hello@neuroshambles.com. Anyway, less of this nonsense. Let's smash on with the show.
Meet the guest.
So I'm delighted to be able to welcome a new guest to the podcast. This is someone who I kind of knew a very long time ago when we were on the comedy circuit together and we sort of lost contact. And here we are again. I am absolutely delighted to be able to welcome Hatty Ashdown. How are you doing, Hatty?
Woohoo! I'm here.
You are. I know. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm glad to be reconnected through being neurodiverse legend parents. That's what I'm going to call them.
I'll take that. So I just explained a bit about you, Hattie. You're a comedian, obviously a parent of neurodivergent children as well. Tell us a little bit about your setup. Who have you got with you?
Right. Well, I should think of names. This was I've got two boys.
Yes.
And it's my oldest son who is a neurodiverse star. Let's call him Keith because. The other night on Radio 5 Live, he introduced me, and when he was saying, and Hattie and her son Keith, and if you know my son's name, it is so far from Keith.
You're going to have to remember this for all the anecdotes that we talk about from now on.
I know. Because this is so funny. And I was like, it's not Keith. And I corrected him, and then I thought afterwards, well, actually, I should have just left it. So let's call it Keith, and the other one will say B.
Okay.
The thing is, if you go onto my Instagram, everyone knows their names.
I know, but you got to make them work for it.
Oh, well, I try and say the oldest and the youngest normally. So the oldest is 8, the youngest is 5, and oldest Keith is got. It's so funny. No one has a newborn baby called Keith now, do they? Oh, baby Keith.
It'll come back in. Give it time.
It'll come back. It'll be retro. He got diagnosed now. He's 8. So what was it? About 3 years ago now.
Okay.
With ADHD and autism, which was a surprise at first. And so far, B not, and I don't see any signs.
Okay. And how old? Sorry, how old was B?
But the youngest is 5.
5. Okay.
And so he's in year 1. He's a summer baby. Okay. So be interesting.
So you've got an undiagnosed neurotypical in there as well.
Yes. At the moment.
Okay.
But I don't. Yeah, we got our first parents' evening this week, so we'll see how that goes.
Okay. Yeah.
With Keith, the oldest, I think that I knew. I think from about 2.5.
Okay.
Whereas with the youngest, because of the oldest, it's just, he's just so completely different. And the communication was always the problem with my oldest. Whereas the communication with the youngest has been amazing. I
Okay.
mean, you know what I mean? If anything, he looks after us all. That's what I say. Because I'm currently in the middle of being tested for ADHD.
Right. Okay.
I was diagnosed with dyslexia when I
Right.
was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And then, my friend said to me the other day, she went, "Well, why do you want to get diagnosed?" I mean, you sort of know, because my counsellor brought it up. And I was like, well, to be honest, it's just circumstance. I don't need official thing to tell me, but yeah, I just thought may as well.
Just contextualizes some stuff, doesn't it? I guess.
Yeah.
I just think it's understanding yourself a little bit more and giving yourself a break for some things that.
Well, even having the assessment and answering some of the questions that I hadn't even thought about, I started like crying because I was like, I don't know where that's come from. Yeah.
It's like, what, other people can just do this?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
I was thinking earlier when I was coming to do this podcast, and she said, "How many times do you lose your phone a day?" And I was like, and I couldn't find my phone to come and talk to you. And I thought, oh, here we go. I was like, yeah, a lot.
Okay, but you seem like a quite a happy neuroshambolic family from kind of our conversations previously.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. We live and learn.
Absolutely,
we're learning. We're very new. I'm a new baby, I think, to the camp of being a neurodiverse parent.
Yes.
As in, I know we got diagnosed a couple of years ago, but it's been like a slow realization and accepting, if I'm honest.
No, okay, there. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for introducing us to your household. Let's crack on with the topic of the week.
What's the topic of the week?
So the topic of this week is leaving the house, because, again, anything to do with neuroshambles, I like to take a thing that most neurotypical families will find straightforward and then point at it and go, it's not like that for us. There's all kinds of shit going on. So obviously, leaving the house with kids, any kids, neurotypical or neurodivergent, is tricky. Let's start by saying that it's not a phenomenon unique to neurodivergent setups that leaving the house is a bit of a nightmare. However, there are a whole load of additional issues that make leaving the house a significantly more stressful experience. And the thing is, all of that happens behind closed doors. You're not out of the house yet, right? By definition. So we don't really see what other people have to do to get their lot out of the house. So I kind of thought it'd be quite interesting to talk to other people and just sort of say, well, this is what I do. I know everyone else has got their own stuff going on, but I just thought it'd be interesting to hear what other people do when they have to leave the house and shine a light into some of the rigmarole we have to go to get the kids out the door. So obviously a lot of neurodivergent kids have difficulty with transition. I think that's fundamentally what it is. It's transition. It's going from one thing to another. And leaving the house is probably the most jarring form of transition for our kids, if you think about it, because they're going from their safe space, right? A place that they know and they're familiar with, and to a degree where the variables are controlled as much as possible. Yeah. And then madness reigns. They're just out in the world and we can't control all those variables. We can't control the noise or the amount of people or the traffic or the dogs or any of the triggers. So
and time. Can't control time. I wish I could freeze it. It'd be so good if I could freeze it while I get him ready.
Yes.
But there's so many layers to getting out of the door. I don't know where to start, really. I guess time... his awareness of time, which I know, again, a lot of kids have. And I speak to other parents, and it's like, how do you make them understand that we're going to be late means nothing to them. It means absolutely nothing. But again, not to keep comparing, but it's really good for me in a way, because it's like, because my youngest doesn't have that problem, he's on board a bit more with that. So he doesn't want to be late. He gets like worried and not scared. He's not like nervous or anything, but he's just a bit more aware of time.
So if you say the word hurry up, it has a tangible effect on him.
He has he's still He still Miranda's around like
Yeah.
they do. Like it's like being with drunk people, isn't it? It's just like trying to get two drunk people out the door where they're sort of putting their shoes on, and then somehow the shoes have come back off again and stuff like that. How did that happen? So let's take going to school, because there's a difference
Yes.
between getting up and going to school and then the difference between the weekend
Yes.
or you're on
Mhm.
half term. Going to school, I'm lucky that he likes going to school. So I don't have at one point it was hell because I had him that like just can't do the transition, forgets what he's doing, goes upstairs to get dressed. I go up there, and of course he hasn't got dressed. He's forgot that that's what he's gone up there to do,
Yeah. Yeah.
which happens all the time. My kid, if I said, go and get your socks, like he knows where his sock drawer is, he knows where his t-shirt drawer, like, because he's 8, he's got a bit better at that now.
Mm-hmm.
But if I said, go and get your socks, guarantee, 100%, I could put 50 quid on it, he will forget. He will forget.
Yeah. As in, so, but is it actually him forgetting completely, or is it him getting distracted by
He's getting
other
distracted, I
things?
guess. He goes up
Okay.
there, he's like, oh, a bit of Lego. Oh, and it's, or it's this book, a book mainly. I mean, he's just crazy bookworm, as he even calls himself, self-declared bookworm.
Otto has exactly the same thing. It's like distraction is a major problem. Like he's started putting pants on before and then not finished. He just left them around his ankles and got up and went to do something else. And just like waddling around like
we have to laugh at it because he's so distracted. If you lay the clothes out, which I've now given in to trying to make him this sort of. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not mothering him. He's got to. It's because he's going to be at school and he has to dress himself and undress himself for school. For
what school
swimming.
does he go to?
I was going to say for swimming and for PE. Yeah. So he can dress himself, but I mean. For a while, I was really, and I don't know whether this is something you've talked about, the battles, you choose your battles.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I was trying to make him be like, right, okay, I'd show him what is in what drawer, like uniform tops here, blah, blah. And so, but it just took so long. So now, Mark, I just get the whole uniform, I lay it out like a person on the sofa.
Yeah, excellent.
And he just get.
But that's good. That's not you mothering him. That's just you reducing some of the, the potential
stress.
kind of sticking points. It's not, we have to improvise with our kids. It's not, it's, I wouldn't feel bad about doing that. It's just like, here are the things. Oh, it's a visual reminder for him of what he needs to do.
But it does mean as well, he because also I should say I'm a triple threat because I'm also now single parent. So
Nice.
I'm doing this on my flipping own. Is that he will be so distracted that he has literally put on backwards. He's put them,
inside out. That's a fun
inside
one as well.
out.
Yeah.
Oh, always. I mean, we always know it's a PE day because he comes out with his clothes on inside out from school. You go, oh, it's PE today then, was it?
I often feel like this with Otto. I don't know if you've ever read Gulliver's Travels, right? But there's a bit in Gulliver's Travels which is brilliant. There's a whole island full of scientists. It's called Laputa, right? And there are scientists that walk around and they are so deep in scientific thought that they forget to listen or to speak. And so they have these little people following them around with inflatable bladders on sticks, and they're called flappers, and they have to bop them on the ears when they have to listen. Or bop them on the mouth when they need to talk, right? Which is insane, but I'm thinking that would genuinely be quite helpful in my household if someone sort of reminded Otto when he needed to listen or when he needed to just bop his pants that are around his ankles, maybe pull those up.
Yeah.
It's a Swiftian nightmare, our household. But mainly with Otto, to be fair. The other two...
Is Otto the one that has more of the listening problem?
He presents kind of more distractibly with his ADHD. So Jay is also diagnosed with ADHD, but he can watch a program till the end. Or he can read a book and hyper focus, whereas Otto is constantly thinking about the next thing and doing the next thing and being distracted by stuff. So it is much more difficult for him. That process of like, let's go quickly. It just doing that is a bit of a nightmare. And it sounds like Keith has a similar thing.
I'd say it's a bit of the both because it sort of, I feel like he goes through phases, which is
Okay.
another thing I'd say to anyone listening. It's like, it's never boring because I feel like, I don't know, it's like, I don't know if it's something with the moon. I don't know what it is, but I feel like we'll go through a phase where it's like this couple of weeks, he's really like anxious at the moment and he'll be very tearful. He'll go through, it feels like he goes through phases where he just sort of feels like he's a
Yeah.
man. I say he's like a man on the edge. You know, his wife's left him and he's got,
It's
and
this.
everything's so, and it's like, just don't mention it. He's like, "Argh!" And he's
Yeah.
like, he's literally like that. But then that kind of can go, and you know, obviously with help, you know, different people, specialists I talk to, you break it down. You go, why is he doing this? Is he not getting much sleep? Has this happened in his life? Blah blah blah. And then the next time he'll be much more chilled.
Yeah, and well, what I've learned is that's just kind of a build-up of different things, and sometimes there's just things that you're not even aware of. There's like a drill next door, or the extractor fan's on, and all of a sudden it just heightens. With Otto again in particular, it just kind of heightens his anxiety, and that then spills over into all the other things that you're sort of seeing, and it might not even be things that you're aware of, or it might be something that that he's anxious about going to school about, or whatever it is, and then it presents in a different way, and Otto doesn't really have the kind of understanding to articulate that to me, so I have to look for clues. You got to look for the clues. I once had this, and he was like in a really kind of, he was really anxious, and I'm trying to have a conversation with Tam, and he's sort of just getting really wound up, and I realized it was literally the extractor fan was on. And it was really getting to him, but he didn't know that. And so I just turned that off, and it's like, okay. And he totally calmed down. And it's just like looking for those clues and working out what could be causing it. Could just be hungry.
And I have a noise sensitive thing.
Okay.
I can't stand certain noises. So, and that's only something that I've sort of like put two and two together at.
Yeah. So back to the theme of distraction, because I think it's quite an interesting one, because like you're saying, all kids get distracted, but this is next level of distraction of when you like even getting them to near the front door, like all we got to do now, like I can see the door, you've got your shoes on, now we can go. That again, that's not cut and dry for me, because I've got three of them and they all do their own different things. They've all got their own agendas, right? Jay also gets distracted, but by physical stuff. We've got a gorilla gym in our house. Have you ever heard of a gorilla gym?
No.
That shit is amazing. Basically, it goes over the door frame, and it's this like apparatus that they can swing on like this. So you've got a swing attachment and rings and a trapeze attachment and a ladder, and they can climb on it basically. And you don't have to bolt it in or anything. It just kind of attaches to the door frame, and it's amazing because they can just let out this their excess energy.
I am ordering that today.
It is amazing. And for anyone listening, I'm going to put it in the show notes, because it is, I can't recommend it highly enough, and it's been really good to kind of let off this energy that they have, and to give them that sort of sense of freedom of being able to climb around the house in sort of permitted areas. Not that they stay to those areas, Jesus. They're all over the place. But it is particularly enticing to Jay as we're trying to get him out the door. For some reason, he's like, right, now is the time that I'm going to keep climbing upside down. And it's like, dude, I know it's appealing, but that's not what's on the list now. Right now, you could choose to go right out the door like we're supposed to, but no, he's chosen to go left and to climb on the gorilla gym, and then I've got that whole battle to fight whilst trying to get the others, like funneling them out the door as well. So distraction is very very prevalent in our household, and that is one of the killers of getting everyone out of the house in the same at the same time.
Yeah, ours is Lego, I think.
Yeah.
We don't have many toys downstairs now.
Oh, good. That's a good idea. Yeah, we do.
for that reason. I try to do that thing. It doesn't always work, by the way. I don't always remember, of having a box. So I got this thing where they each have a box, and then the idea is I rotate whatever's in that box.
Okay.
So it's kind of called their board box. So the idea is like, if they're bored or to play, have a look what's in the box. It does, at the moment, it's all a bit like messed up, but as well as that, there's a couple of Lego boxes, and they when I'm sort of like, it's like when your back's turned and I'm doing the packed lunch, and I'm quickly, because I've forgotten, and I'm saying, go wait by the door. Just go and wait by the door. And then it's like they've looked round, they've really got to do this. And then they're going to be, you never let me play. And I'm like, what? You've had all morning, or, all of last night you could have played. Now it's not, and then it's like, you're mean. I had this tonight, actually. You're mean. You're the meanie mummy.
It's like, you have no idea.
I know. They don't know how lucky they are. They really don't.
They don't. So obviously, like you say, there are, getting out that house, there's the distractibility. So we have to put in strategies in place, because it's not just being distracted. There is an element of anxiety around leaving the house, whether they acknowledge it or not, or whether we're aware of it or not. Leaving the house causes anxiety to a degree that they then choose to kind of, smooth over by being distracted by other things or with other strategies. So we've got to find any way that we can to smooth this transition. So one of the best strategies I think that we can put in place is letting them know what's out there, letting them know the plan. Where are we going? Because that's a lot of the anxiety is I don't know what we're doing. I can't visualize it. Now my kids, some autistic kids really benefit from social stories, where you kind of show them pictures and you really help them to visualize, you are going to go to this place and you're going to see this person and you're going to do this, and then next we're going to do this, and after that you're going to... My kids don't really need to know that. They just need to know a broad plan, and for different reasons. So Otto is anxious about not really knowing what we're doing, so any new experience he gets particularly anxious about.
Okay.
Jay, on the other hand, has PDA, right? Pathological demand avoidance. I don't know if you're familiar with this,
I'm
Hattie.
not very familiar with this. No.
It's something that I talk about a lot in the podcast, and I'm sure there are other people going, "What the hell is he talking about?" So it is also kind of known as pervasive desire for autonomy. That's probably a better way of phrasing it.
Okay.
They are anxious if they're not in control, or if they feel like their control has been taken away from them. And that anxiety can either lead to meltdowns from a kind of like a flight perspective. They might run away, or they might freeze, or in Jay's case, it's fight. Now, mostly verbal, where he'll be very rude and very acerbic, but increasingly at the moment physical as well. He'll kind of lash out a bit. So anything we can do to sort of ease that transition out of the house, we have to kind of seize upon. And so from Otto's point of view, he needs to know the plan. From Jay's point of view, he needs to feel like he is part of the decision-making process as to why we're leaving the house.
So what if you're having a day out? If you say you're going to a zoo or something, how would that work? Would you tell them the night before, or would you still tell them in that morning?
This is an excellent question, because all of my kids need different time frames for when this information is revealed to them. If I told Otto the day before, he might start worrying about it, because he doesn't just sit with that and go, okay, I know the plan. He might then start going, oh, like, what if a tiger gets out? And I mean, it's he sort of catastrophizes a lot, and he worries about things. So actually, letting him know too far in advance isn't particularly helpful. But for Jay, he needs to have made the decision that we're going to the zoo. He needs to be on board with that plan. So you've got to, that's part of the fun. So laying out the broad plan is important. So we just had half term and I was solo parenting. And for the first time, I introduced like a timetable, which is just, I don't want to parent by a timetable. Who thought that? When they're like, what kind of parent I'm going to be? One that is on time and on schedule. I'm going to be an admin freak. I'm not. That's not me.
Spreadsheets. Oh, I know.
Exactly. But you got to do what you got to do. So I got this timetable. It's like AM. This is what we're doing in the morning. This is what we're doing in the afternoon. And this is what's for dinner. And then they could see it. Obviously, for Jay, that was helpful. For India, also, that was helpful to let her know what's going on. And Otto would see some things and he'd be like, what's going Thursday afternoon? What's that mean? What does that mean? It's like, I have to sort of talk him through it. So there is that kind of fun side of things, really. But essentially, from Otto's perspective, he just needs to know that a trusted adult is going to be there to help him get through it. As long as he knows that, he's on board with it. But if it's like, if you say you're going to table tennis club, right? I'm not going to be there, and he knows I'm not going to be there, that is a massive problem for him, and he will be really anxious about that for ages. So that's just kind of how he needs it.
And have you ever been in a situation where you have had to force him to go into something he doesn't want to go in?
Oh, regularly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the thing with Otto is that he doesn't he doesn't trust us. Still, do you know what I mean? It's like, now, we don't force you to do dangerous shit. We haven't ever just like pushed you into some paintballing and left you.
Yeah.
You know, like his worst
You just
nightmare.
sometimes think, where have you got this from?
Exactly. Where is this lack of faith in my parenting come from? And it's obviously come from somewhere. But there are some times where like he is getting anxious and I have to basically just take control. And I've said that to him as well before when he's like melting down. It's like, I am taking control of the situation now. You don't need to worry about it. I'm in control, and this is what we're doing. And then he'll do it. And then as soon as he gets through the doors and he sees what it is, and I'm with him for a few minutes, he's totally fine.
Yeah, I think it's they need to feel sort of heard and that. And I think I'm always trying to pick up tips. I think I've read or heard on some podcasts about one thing is you could even write it down, like what you, and show them.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to do this with Keith the other day. I can't even remember what it was about now. I went, look, why don't I write it down? And he went, no, Dad. He screamed because he thought I was going to get him to write. He hates writing so much. And I was like, no, I'll write it down. But even just me writing seemed to make him angry. I was like, okay, that's not going to work for you.
Yeah, so he'd already kind of tipped over. That was he'd already kind of got so anxious about it that
you're right.
Even discussing it was too much.
Yeah, that's the thing with him. And he'd all, I was trying to, when you were saying that, I was like, oh, which one? I don't know. It's a little bit of both, really.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's funny because I said about my youngest, I don't think there's anything there. But sometimes I think there's a tiny bit of autism just because actually, funny enough, he's more the one that's worried about going to new situations or we had an awful situation with a party with him, a family party, and he was kicking and screaming. And it was like, my husband said, I'll just sit in the car with him. But I was like, no, I was of the thing of like, no, he's got to learn, like, it's fine. It's just all family in there. And in the end, we just wanted him to see that it was fine. And he came in and he was fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Whereas my child who is diagnosed, one thing with him is he doesn't have fear of new things. He has that no barrier thing.
Okay.
Yeah, no boundaries thing.
Yes.
Which I always used to confuse. So when he was getting tested for ADHD and they said about the autism and they said about different attributes, I was like, oh, I just always thought he was super confident.
Yeah, I had that with Jay. I was like, oh, he's so sociable, isn't he? It's like, no, he does not give a fuck about anyone else.
He'd get up on stage. Every show we've gone to where it's a kid show, he's up on stage. I mean, in Edinburgh, every kid show, he was the one on stage. I love it. But in terms of whether he would need to know, funny enough, as he's getting older, he does need to know. But the problem I straddle with is that because of his ADHD, he hates, and I relate to this, he hates disappointment.
Oh yeah, changes of plan. So
yeah.
That's a huge thing as well. Yeah.
So I can't. So for example, I've learnt now. So say if it's just a simple thing of going to my sister's, and they love my sister. I won't tell them now until the very last minute because I've had my sister, say, oh, I'm sick or whatever, and then so
I know.
So it's a real difficult one because I don't want him to be in a situation that he can't handle. But then when do I tell him? So
it's the timing issue. That's the thing that I think
that's what other people don't have to deal with.
Yeah, exactly.
You have to be this spy, and
you have to work out the timings because the different children need to know different bits of information at different times, and you also have to factor in that those plans might change. In which case, everything goes to shit. Well, we had this again with when I had the kids in half term. On Sunday morning, I was like, car boot sale, right? We bloody love a car boot sale because I can
Yeah.
go there, I can give them £2.50 budget, right, each, and they can
Yeah.
like go and shop like kings. Like, because everyone's throwing away their tat for like 10p, so they could get loads of tat, and it's great. And I just let them loose, and it's all fine. But on the Sunday morning, it rained, and the car boot sale was off,
Oh.
and India could not handle that. She was absolutely just beside herself with fury. It was rage and disappointment, and it's like, I tried really hard because I let you know what the plan was, because
Yeah.
obviously I'm trying to aid this transition out of the house. I'm trying to get us to leave the house and look forward to it and be excited by it. But then
Yeah.
it becomes a crushing disappointment and you lose that way. So I can't win.
I'm thinking about when we went to the British. I haven't been back to the Natural History Museum because I'm scarred for life. He was just in a mood from the start, and we should never have gone.
Let me
And he was-
let me just give you a little bit of advice here. They have autism-friendly sessions at the Natural History Museum, which we've
This
been
is what I need to do now.
Dinosaurs, it's called.
Oh,
And you go early. It's early morning, but there are very few people around. Lights are up, sound is down. It is. We've been before. Big
yeah.
heads up. Go. I mean, they do it occasionally, not that often. But look at
Yeah.
when the next one is and do that, because you'll get all of that joy and none
Oh,
of
that's
the
perfect.
trauma.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, because we went and it was great.
You have to go in the It's like some people call it the boring room, where there was just some like minerals or something, right? And no one was in there, but we had to take him in there just to let him kick it all out and chill out. And obviously it was just too.
Yeah. No, it is.
We
It's
never
stressful.
saw any dinosaurs. We raced to Andy's clock and had a photo there, and then left.
Yeah, well, yeah, you definitely. I think Dinosaurs is made for you and Keith.
Okay.
So yeah, crack on. The problem is, right, with leaving the house, as you alluded to earlier, sometimes we're doing stuff they don't want to do. Like there's school. If they're on board with school, okay, that's fine. Jay is resisted to school at the moment, so that adds an extra like spanner in the works. But he understands that it's a thing that he needs to do, so he will kind of agree. But there are some times when, as a family, you have to do stuff that not everyone wants to do, and that becomes
Yeah.
a flipping nightmare.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, how do you handle that with Keith? Is Keith kind of resistant to that sort of thing?
Generally, my oldest is good with that. But if it's so something he doesn't want to do particularly, that would either be shopping, or just generally he's got it in his mind. Like they just both of them are homeboys. Like they love staying at home, and we've sort of like. It seems to be my youngest that will often come up with the ideas of what we're going to do. It's like, oh, mummy, can we do this tomorrow? So I'll say, oh, okay, we'll do that. And then when it comes to it, for whatever reason, he's like, no, I don't feel like going. Even if it's something quite good, going to the park.
Right.
He's like, no, I don't want to do that. And
Even when he came up with the idea in the first place.
Well, no, so. No, if he's come up with it, that is happening.
Right. Is this Keith?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm saying normally a lot of the time with what we're doing, especially now, this is what I've heard is happen, and I can see why it happens when you're a single parent. They become like little adults, because I go, then what do you want to do? What do you want to do at the weekend? And my youngest is really good with coming up with ideas. So he'll say gravity or park or whatever. And then I have to say he sort of generally, Keith generally goes along with it. But but then he can change his mind. He's like always having a nice time watching telly or whatever, or it's like, oh, I don't really want to go. I probably do all the wrong things. I just do a lot of bargaining. I do a lot of, I do all the wrong things.
That's the thing. Like Jay would be the one that puts his foot down, but no amount of bargaining really would get him to do. Once he's decided, that's it. He's not, because you've taken control away from him. Therefore, he will not go along with that. unless you can make a really compelling reason why he should do that. I think giving them a long lead in is important. So letting them finish what they're doing is really important. So what the most often asked question in our house is usually, how long's left on this? Because if they've got
Yes.
screen time, right?
Yeah,
How long's
yeah,
left?
yeah.
And I think in neurotypical families is like, right, turn it off. We're off now. We're going out. That would never,
I know.
that would never wash in my household. So it is always, how long's left? Right. Okay. When that finishes, then you get your shoes on.
Are yours really? Because I, again, find this when I go to other people's houses, can't believe how other people's kids just about the iPad's there and they're like, they might look at it for a bit, then they'll put it down. My kids, we have to have strict times on it because I honestly think if I just let them, they just be on it all day long.
Yeah.
They can't control themselves.
Well, but think about it from their perspective. It's a safe thing to do. It's predictable, right? I know. I saw a thing on Instagram recently where someone was explaining this, and I was like, oh, totally makes sense. It's like, particularly if they've got PDA, they are in control. They can pause it, they can rewind it, they can skip it, they can watch exactly what they want to watch. They're fully in control, and that feeling is a comfort to them, and it's a safe space for them. So it totally makes sense to me that is what he experiences, what Jay experiences in particular, and Otto similarly is very distractible. So he flicks around. He loves music, so he's on Spotify, and he flicks around all the time. He never finishes the end of a song, but he's flipping about, and again, that's rewarding to him, and that's kind of a comfort to him. So I'm fine with that. But when you need to get them to break away from that, as you've experienced, it's not easy. Yeah. So that's where it's like, how long is left?
I've had all that advice of like, you say to them, okay, just to let you know, going to be in 5 minutes. But I find it makes absolutely no difference to him because, again, like no awareness of time.
Okay, no, but that's why I don't say in 5 minutes. I ask how long is left on the episode, and when the episode finishes and the credits roll or something else comes on, they know that is a timer. And also, I'm not the one imposing the end, if you see what I mean, because the program is doing that. That's out of my kind of jurisdiction, if you like. So we're just sort of saying, agree that watch the end of this, then get your shoes on.
Yeah, but honestly, that doesn't work either because I'll say the end of this, and then unless it's fine if we're sort of, say it's the weekend and I'll say the end of this and we're going out the door, I can keep an eye. But if I look away myself and they've started watching another one, you see, well, and then I go, 1 minute, and he's got no control.
Yeah, and you also have the added variable that you are distractible as well because you're suspected ADHD. So you're the one that's supposed to be keeping track of this to enforce it. And
can you imagine what it's like for us trying to get out the door?
Yeah,
How many times do you think we get out the door and then I have to go? Room minute, kids. And they have to walk back up the road and I have to go back in and get something I've forgotten or turn something off. It's a nightmare.
Because you have to do this timer, this countdown to like, we're leaving in 5 minutes. And particularly when we're leaving for school, I have to go and tell Jay in 5 minutes we're leaving, just so he's got that. He doesn't like to be kind of surprised by it. But I do genuinely worry about what would happen if we need to leave the house in emergency. In an emergency, we'd be screwed. Oh, if something's on fire, it's like, right, everyone out the house now. I'd get Jay with his PDA going, no, this is not a joint decision. You're not a dictator. I will not yield to your authority. So, I mean, obviously, once he's aware of the full facts and the fact the kitchen's on fire, he would probably quite reasonably decide to leave with us. Otto might just freeze because it's unexpected and he's panicking because of the anxiety. I genuinely, it's a fear of mine that if something like that happens, my lot are going to be a fucking nightmare to get out of the house.
Well, I'll tell you what you don't do is panic like I did when a magpie flew into the house and all I heard was, I think I opened the door to put the bins out or something, as I do. Left the door open because I was going to go back out again. And then all I heard was this sort of scratchy noise. And I thought it was a cat that's coming because that's happened before. I thought, his cat's come in and run under the sofa. No, a magpie come in and flew under the sofa.
Oh my God.
So I'm expecting a cat to come out, and then suddenly this magpie flew up. It seemed like the biggest thing in the world. It felt like we had a hawk to me. And I went, oh my God! And they screamed because they panicked as well. And I just went, honestly, we thought we're murdering. I went, go upstairs!
Lock the door. Coin 999.
I did. And then I had to try and get it out. I did get it out eventually.
But did they react quickly? Did they respond to the instructions?
But that's what I mean. So you'd be surprised. They ran upstairs.
Oh, that's it.
But I can't remember what they were doing exactly. But had Keith been on the iPad, might have been different.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. How long's left? Right. Well, when that's finished, get the fuck out of the way of the magpie.
Yeah, because he's got boundary. He's got no boundaries with a lot of things, but animals, he's quite scared of a lot of animals. So
yeah, okay.
That's what I need to do. I just need to get a dog barking at the door, and then he'd be out the door.
What? Release the hounds?
Yeah.
If you don't leave in 5 minutes, I'm going to release the hounds.
Yeah, some proper 80s parenting. Come on.
Now, obviously, with neurodivergent kids, it's not just the distractibility. It's not just the kind of compliance of leaving the house at the same time, or the ability to kind of stop what they're doing, or the fact you have to give them a long lead in. Sometimes it's the sheer logistics of physically putting shoes on, or physically like this is a big problem with Otto. So he has issues with the relationship between his mind and his body and spatial awareness and all of that. He has real difficulty with his fine motor skills. So if I say go put your shoes on, he does this thing where he sits in the middle of the doorway, right? So I have to get everyone out through our porch, right? Our porch is tiny. It's
right.
Like it's like a meter cubed, right? Not cubed, because that means that the ceiling's also a meter. No, It's not like being John Malkovich.
One of those ones where you're like, what was the point in this porch?
Yeah, it's tiny, but that's the exit, right? So trying to get everyone dressed and out via that space is a logistical nightmare. And Otto has this thing where he has no spatial awareness, so he'll go and put his shoes on, but he'll be in the middle of the doorway, so people can't get past him. And Jay is not one for I'll wait till you finish, or not one for sort of I'll sidestep you. He will just kick him out of the way, or he'll just barge straight past him, which then causes Otto anxiety, because he feels pain like a lot more keenly than other people, so he's then like freaking out. I'm just like now trying to get Jay to calm down, and it's just the logistics of having to get through that tiny space is itself just an absolute flipping nightmare.
I always say my dream would be to have a porch that's quite big, so not as big as a room, and there's nothing in there, absolutely nothing in there. Maybe it's a bit padded, basically a padded cell.
Yeah.
And they're all ready. They're in their school uniform. They've got their backpacks on. And I just say, just stand there. Just stand there. And there's no distraction.
But they won't just stand there, though, will they?
No, he would find a distraction in a little fluff.
One of the other things that I get is when the kids have their own agenda. And again, this is a particularly strong Jay trait, where if he's ready to go, we're fucking going, right? Doesn't matter if anyone else is ready. I'm off, right?
So true.
So he'll just open the door. He's off. He's down the street. We're just like, hang on a second. Otto is still trying to put the rest of his outfit together, whatever. Like he's got one shoe on, and I can't tell him to hurry up because that causes more panic. Jay's off down the road. India has sensed freedom as well, so she's off out. And they also do this thing. We're on a hill. We live on a hill, and for some reason,
you're a little mad family that lives on a hill.
Exactly. That's how we're referred to. So for some reason, they love going uphill to the top of the hill and then running full speed down the hill. So one will go in one direction down the hill, particularly if he's somewhere, if Jay wants to get somewhere for any reason, he'll go down the hill. The other one will go up the hill. Otto's still fucking around behind me, trying to get his shoes on, and I'm stood in the middle. The neighbours are watching this as well because, you know, we're not a quiet family. It's absolute shit show. I had this recently as well. India is now learning to do this. So I had a medical appointment with Otto recently, and I had to bring India with me. And I'm talking to the counsellor about Otto and how it all went. And India behind me has got a little footstool, put it by the door, unlocked it, opened it. She's out into the street. I'm like, dude, you are the one I could fucking rely on.
Yeah.
What is this?
Oh, where's that come from?
Oh, I was obviously learning.
They always keep you on your toes.
Let's say just a normal day, right? What would your routine be? Let's just assume that, you know, that they've had breakfast and that they've brushed their teeth, that kind of thing, right? But the final bit of leaving the house, how do you handle that?
Well, I was going to say, actually, I am getting more regimented now. Again, being on my own and stuff, I am trying to do that thing of getting myself dressed first because, you know, it's that safety first. Put your mask on when we go in to crash.
Yes, get your armour on.
Yeah. We were trying for a while. I had this clock, just normal clock.
Yeah.
And I put stickers on it. Again, something I read or whatever about... So I put stickers that said different things, like nearly time to go, or like, and also like pictures, so they knew like it would have like a picture of shoes and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
To give it a more visual thing. Mm-hmm. And again, the youngest really got on board with this. I find with stuff like that, Keith is all on board with it for the first day.
It's novelty.
He's like, this is exciting. This is a new thing. Next day. No, it's boring. So we were trying that for a while, but there does seem to be this lost time between, I will think, oh, we're doing really well. And they're all dressed and everything, but then something happens in this time where they've then got to get their shoes on and get out. So I would say it's a school day. It will literally be me getting all the packed lunches and everything by the front door. And then I'm saying, get your shoes on. Sometimes I get them out and lay them there. And I've got this thing about like sit on the step. And we've got like a step at the bottom of the stairs to do it. Because if I just give them to Keith, he'll walk off. One will get lost.
Yes.
It's like I have to say, come and sit here and put them on. Because otherwise one's gone. He's put one on. He's lost a sock. Or he's forgot. I've actually been saying about getting the putting things on inside out. He's like taken things off before, and I'm like, no, you're putting them on.
It's the opposite.
Yeah, and then because it's two, and obviously you've got three, so my heart goes out to you. It's like I've done one, and then I'm like, now get your coat. And sometimes if we're having a good morning, he will go and get the coat and he'll put it on. But he never gets his bag. He's got a bit. I need to get him better at that. But sometimes it will be he's got his shoes on. Then I'm doing the shoes, the other one. I turn around and it's like you've lost control.
Yeah.
And he started to play with Lego or whatever. And then it's back to that one, and I'm scurrying him. Always I forget to do the youngest one's hair. He's got long hair and it gets all knotty. So normally the routine is as we're walking out, I'm spraying it and I'm brushing it. As we're walking out, and I probably do it all wrong because I just carry all the bags. I'm like a donkey. And like you said, at the moment we've got this routine where it seems to work though. When Keith is all ready, he's got the coat and the shoe, I'm like, just get him out that door. And he just stands out the front, but he doesn't stand. He sort of paces.
Yes.
And he's in his own little world playing one of his scenarios. But I'm like, he's out.
Yes.
But then the other morning, I think he was so in his scenario, the youngest went, he's gone to school. He started walking. And he's gone a bit too far. And I was like, where are you? He sort of forgot. And then even he looked shocked. You know, he was like, oh. Because I guess it's muscle memory to that's what they do.
My typical exit routine is always the same. So basically, exactly 25 minutes past 8 is the time where I'm like, it's go time. Now, I know that different
Right.
children need different warnings, so I will go up and tell Jay. Jay's more reluctant, so I need to give him sort of 5 minute warning, and he is very grumpy about the whole thing and will be reluctant, but I'll just give him notice, and then I'll get the other two to get ready, get their shoes on. There's the constant battle over whether they're going to wear a coat or not, even if it's
Oh,
absolutely
yeah.
throwing it down with rain. It's something that I've covered in the most recent episode I did about clothing. Like, they don't seem to want to wear coats, and I've ceased to. I'll put it in their bag, and then if the teacher asks, it's in their bag. I'm parenting, right? So
Yeah.
so there's all that side of things, but crucially, I've got to get Otto and India ready and out of the way, because the moment that Jay comes down, it it's like the running of the bulls in Pamplona. Yeah.
Yeah.
where you open that door and he is just like a ball of fury because he doesn't want to leave the house. He doesn't want to go to school. So he's stomping around. He's being rude. He's sort of lashing out. So everyone gets out of the way. But Otto often forgets to get out of the way. So I'm sort of making sure that India's doing what India's doing. And all of a sudden I turn around and Otto's wandered into Jay's path. He might even still be sitting in the doorway putting his shoes on. And I'm just like, no, trying to physically separate them. Or Jay is on the gorilla gym, so I have to drag him down from the gorilla
Oh,
gym.
yeah.
Or I say, Jay, go get your shoes on. And he'll go and get his shoes on, but he won't put them on in the porch because why would you? That's near where we're leaving. So he goes to a different part of the house and puts them on. So I'm
Oh,
having to
yes.
wrangle him.
Yes.
So then I'd go to Otto, can you go and wait in the porch? India, go and wait in the porch, the tiniest porch, bear in mind, and then just hope that they don't just let themselves out. And eventually I chase Jay down and go, right, now we're leaving. He's arguing about it. Funnel everyone in. And then bags on, but I forgot, because when they're waiting in the porch, they don't put their bags on because that's an instruction too far. So I have to then put the bags on for them. But again, that takes up space in the porch. So there's jostling and there's just this physical logistics of trying to do it. And then I have to open the door, but the door opens into the porch. It doesn't open outwards like a helpful door. It opens inwards, and Otto is always standing in the way. It doesn't matter how many times. So he's still not learned that he has to get out of the way of the door. So I'm like, can you move out of the way? And then like Jay is sort of shoving him out of the way, and then it all kicks off there. So eventually we get everyone out of the house, and it feels like the house breathes a sigh of relief. After all of that, it's like, I can imagine what it's like being our house when everyone's out. Just the silence and the tranquility for that brief moment in time. And then, but this morning, Jay was refusing to go out of the house for whatever reason. I had a particularly traumatic morning with him this morning. So I physically ejected him from the house like a bouncer. I haven't had to do that before, but the only way I could do that was by making it a joke, and he was okay. Like, I made it I basically pretended to be a bouncer and got kind of amusingly...
That's what Keith reacts to that really well. That if you sort of tickle, or I put him over my shoulder and it's like, right, okay, I'm putting you in the bin, then that's it.
Yeah, you could adopt a character. Humour is so important. Actually, that's another thing I forgot about Jay. If he refuses to come down sometimes, that's the shit we have to do, Hattie. I then say, right, the train is leaving, and the train is me carrying him over my shoulder down the stairs, right? I've got to get him down 2 flights of stairs. Yeah. Careful not to bang his head on the wall, just to get him into the porch. And then I'll put him in the porch where his shoes are, and he'll still fuck off somewhere else as soon as I put him down. So, but then you'll go into school on the school run, and someone will go, "Oh, I had a bit of a nightmare getting my kids in today. I had to tell them twice to get their shoes on." It's like,
you think
no idea. You have no idea what I've had to deal with. Sometimes you will get the odd unexpected curveball as well from the kids, just them being neurodivergent little humans. It was one day recently where India came downstairs wearing a fedora. right, had found a fedora. Now, I'm relatively sure that that's not in the school uniform policy, and but sort of emerged and sort of presented herself and went, ta-da! And I was like, that looks amazing, but you can't wear it to go to school
Yeah.
because, you'll lose it or something. And she went into an absolute fury. She was like, she couldn't
Oh,
believe it because obviously she looked amazing and she thought she looked amazing. And why shouldn't she be allowed to go in wearing a fedora for a number of reasons? So I'm trying to deal with that at the same time that Otto, for the first time probably ever, has decided that he wants to do his homework of his own volition, right?
oh
So it's like,
wow.
this doesn't happen. Okay, I'm going to facilitate this. So then I sort of get his homework book open. I'm like, that's fantastic. And obviously you want to encourage him to do that, but it's like 10 minutes before we have to leave. So I don't want to hurry
Yeah.
him up because, again, that's going to cause him anxiety. So I'll just kind of lay it out and I'll let you kind of carry on with that while I'm dealing with the fedora issue. But I also need to give Jay his 5-minute warning upstairs. So I go upstairs to give him his 5-minute warning, back to the fedora wars. Then
Well,
Otto is needing assistance with his homework because he needs guidance from an adult because he
yeah.
like at all times. So this is no different from any other time. And I'm also aware of the clock and being late of getting out of the house. So I've got all this juggling, just
But
these curveballs that are thrown up.
yeah, that's so true. And because there are certain things that they don't want to do, or if they want to do it, that's so rare. I get that feeling of like you jump on it. It's like no, we've got to do it, and like yeah, he hates homework. I'd be exactly the same. I'd be like, okay,
I think we've covered the subject of leaving the house in its myriad forms.
I think so.
Now, I occasionally do a thing called Poetry Corner, where
Oh,
I write a poem about the subject. So, if you don't mind, I'm going to do a poem briefly.
I love it.
Right, this is my poem about leaving the house. I imagine the process of leaving the house is straightforward with typical kids, as you don't require nerve or a great deal of nous when they'll readily do what you bid. But with my lot, the prospect of tacit compliance is naught but a pipe dream to me, as my plans to get out are all met with defiance when I try to get them to agree. But it's not a reluctance to venture outside that has led to this entrenched position. It's the turbulent feelings it stirs up inside, because they don't do too well with transition. See, the thought of uncertainty fills them with dread, so they fight hard to stay in control, because it's safe to say no and keep that in their head, despite all my attempts to cajole. So it's never a case of just pop on your shoes and we'll go to the park for an hour. No, I have to be cunning, so they won't refuse and don't exercise their veto power. It takes patience and skill and the pure force of will of a wily and wise politician. So instead of an order they need to fulfill, they're convinced it's of their own volition. And I'm endlessly locked in this delicate dance as I try to swerve dysregulation. It's not easy, but it gives us the very best chance of avoiding the angst and frustration. But enticing consent is just part of the fun, because we have other hurdles to leap, as I have to prevent them from being distracted while trying to get shoes on their feet. Then there's coats to put on, but being candid, I can't always muster the strength to insist. And there's no chance I'll do it by force single-handed when they've made up their minds to resist. Now, you might think by now we'd be all set to leave, because we're standing right next to the door. But if that's what you're thinking, you're clearly naive, because there's yet one more struggle in store. Because while I have paused to put on my own shoes, I've taken my eye off the ball. Their attention span is on a minuscule fuse, and they're now racing off down the hall. So I set off in chase to corral them again, and remind them we're leaving right now, as I'm starting to think in my overwhelmed brain that we're better off home anyhow. But I push through the doubt and remember the brief, and I nullify all opposition. And I swear that our house breathes a sigh of relief when we exit and finish our mission. On the days where I manage to get out the door without meltdowns or insults being hurled, The acute sense of triumph is hard to ignore. Man, I feel like I'm top of the world. And although most folk don't have this nonsense to face, they miss out on an unforeseen plus. Where's that sense of achievement? Or the thrill of the chase? If your kids leave the house with no fuss.
It's not all rubbish.
So this is the It's Not All Rubbish section where we remind ourselves of the positive sides of our neuroshambolic lifestyles. So one of the things I wanted to do is neurodiversity champions. This is any companies or people that are doing excellent work in supporting our neurodivergent kids. Have you got any neurodiversity champions for us?
I've got so many. I'm just going to throw a few in.
Yeah.
Recently, he started doing play therapy at school. And I mean, she's just brilliant. I went and had a cup of tea and a cry with her. She's brilliant. And and you just sort of like not knowing these people exist sometimes. You know what I mean? I think that sometimes people just don't know what's open to them at the school.
Yeah, of course.
Because of his parents splitting up, and he's obviously something like that is really discombobulating for him. And he actually said to me, "Mummy, I think I need a therapist."
Oh.
So I talked to the school, and because someone said to me, they often have counsellors and stuff, and I said, "Well, we've got a play therapist." I said, "He loves it." He says, "Oh, I've got my therapist on Wednesday."
Nice.
So she's brilliant. But company-wise, there's a company called, and I think that might just be Kent-based, called Purple Parenting.
Okay.
Which they're not predominantly for neurodiverse. They are just for, general from like quite young age. They go into these sort of children's centres and offer these workshops generally for free. But we managed to fit into some bracket, and this was before he was diagnosed, but when we kind of knew we sort of like won, if you like, this free sort of sessions with them.
Oh, cool.
And I mean, they were just brilliant, but they were also just brilliant for us, just as a mum and dad. Sometimes felt like it was counselling sessions, just someone to talk to and not know, because we didn't really know anyone else. This was around the time that I felt like I was going around for play dates, and thinking, I'm always the one that has to leave really early because he's kicking off, or he can't handle it, or he won't sit at the table with all the other kids. I'm just feeling a bit like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And so talking to them, it was just brilliant because So
Okay, that's a great shout out. I'll definitely put those in the show notes and recommend them to other people
if they're in Kent.
If they're in Kent, that's fine. But I mean, there will be people, that all over that listen to this, and it may well be helpful, or they may look for similar.
I'm sure every borough's got those sort of I mean, you go to your local children's centre and there's loads of things open to that are cheap or free. It's all there.
I think I've already mentioned my neurodiversity champion, but I wasn't going to. But then I remembered it. The neurodiversity champion that I was going to bring was the Natural History Museum. With the dinosaurs, which was brilliant, and it was really good, and it's definitely worth doing. Okay, the next section is the tiny epic wins, because this is always a good thing to celebrate those things that in a neurotypical family would seem like an insignificant thing, a little tiny thing, but in our world is usually a huge win, and I like to celebrate those. So,
little thing recently, and I know I don't know if you're about to talk about food, but he's really bad with food, doesn't like certain food, touching, all his different needs that he's got with his food, but he won't try anything new. I mean, forget it.
Right, okay.
And then again, when I've been with friends of mine that have gone, try this, and they've literally put the food in the kid's mouth, I'm like, oh my God, could you imagine if I did that? He would go ballistic. Like, I've tried all the things they say about putting on a separate plate. So I've literally put one pea on a plate and go, it's not on your plate. No, still won't touch it. But I couldn't believe it. I don't know how it happened. It was like because we were standing in the kitchen.
Yeah.
It was like because we were standing out. Maybe that's what I've got to do. Just like make him try food in random places, not at the table. And we're standing. I was talking about roast potatoes, and I went, I wish you would try roast potatoes. And he went, oh, okay. And he just took it. And there's this moment where you feel like if you were in a film, there would be music and birds flying around as he just goes, oh, okay. And he bit into this roast potato and he went, like, you know, you're waiting for the verdict.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bigger than MasterChef, you know?
Yes.
And he's like, yeah, it was all right. I was like,
glory days. Imagine that. I mean, it's like Gordon Ramsay giving you a seal of approval.
It is the best seal of approval. I mean, my sister says this, that like he's like a little celebrity because you feel like if he touches you or he hugs you, it's a million times better than anyone else.
That's a fantastic tiny epic win. That's exactly what this is about. Yes.
Good.
Eating a roast potato is absolutely.
And he liked it.
Embodies it. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Okay, good.
I have to. I'm slightly reluctant to do this, but I have to redact a previous tiny epic win on the podcast.
Okay.
Something that I thought was a win turns out to have not been as big a win as I expected.
Oh no!
So a tiny epic win that we had a few episodes ago was that Otto had started staying in his own bed at night. And that was a big problem because he'd always go into Tam's bed or to my bed. And he's a wriggler as well. He's all over the place. So he's really just like, you can't sleep if he's in your bed. And one night he just stayed in his own bed. And then the next night he did it again. It was like, we've absolutely flipping nailed this. Fantastic. Yeah. It was like 3 nights in a row. I was like, this is it. We've absolutely, like, we've completed that level of whatever it is. I then a week later subsequently found out just by accident, because I went into his room like when I was coming to bed at like midnight. I found that he was on his little iPhone. He's got an old iPhone. He was watching YouTube in bed at midnight, right?
At midnight.
And he just sort of like looked at me, completely shamefaced, and then just burst into tears. And then I basically said, have you been doing this a lot? And he was like, yeah. And he'd basically been waking up at midnight and not going back to sleep again.
Wow.
And like, you know, he just watching video game walkthroughs and stuff on YouTube for hours. And that's why he wasn't coming into our room, because he had this. So he was awake. He was still waking up and he knew he didn't want to come into our room. So he just watched YouTube until the morning. So obviously I had to then say, well, and he was really good. Like, what the win? What here? Actually, it turned into a win. It was like, I don't think I should have the phone in my room. So he knew that he was like, he had to remove that. That's quite self-aware of him.
Yeah, yeah.
He knew that he had to remove that temptation, but now he's back into staying with me or Tam again and wriggling around. So the win has not actually been carried through, unfortunately. Okay, the final section of the podcast is the what the flip section. This is moments where your kids will just throw a curveball with anything they say or do, where you know, like, you just literally don't know how to respond to something. You're just completely like, I don't know. The what the flip moments. So have you got any what the flip moments with Keith?
So nothing really shocks me with him, but this is a curveball, I think, with emotions sometimes. Again, even though you might, from a distance, people might, because he does a lot of this sort of like in his own little world and he's sort of talking through a narrative. But then he'll throw a curveball just being like so in tune with emotions and he really feels stuff. And this might sound a bit depressing, but I'm up for sharing it because I think it just shows the kind of like, you cannot go around with these kids, right?
Yeah.
Now, so me and my husband separated he said he wanted out at the end of August, right? And can you imagine? It's very difficult to explain to him what's going on. So we've just done it step by step and just done Daddy's not going to live here anymore, right? So then one night he was here and he was in the bath. He went to him. He went, look, the thing is, I just want to know the reason. He goes, I just want to know the reason why. And of course, at that point, and still probably now actually, he can't say to him, "I don't love mummy anymore," because who wants to say that to a kid, to any kids? And he just went, I can't really answer that right now. And Keith went, oh, if you don't know why, then why do a thing? That's what I say. He said, I say that to my bullies at school, which makes him sound like Oliver Twist. He's not that bad. But of course, I'm in the corner going, yes.
Go on, you go. You go, kid.
Like, I'd like to know why, mate. He's having a midlife crisis. But just to make anyone feel better, now we're 6 months down the line. The other day, he said something about they were asking me, do I wish I'd had a girl? And I said, yeah, of course. I went, no. and Keith went, well, mummy, now you're getting divorced. You could just meet somebody else and they might have a girl.
Nice.
It's just accepted, like, oh,
got it all planned out. He's mapping out your life for you. Excellent.
So you worry about all these things, but because they're pragmatic. He just thinks, well, just get, as long as I'm so I'm the stable,
Yeah.
As long as, so they obviously have started to feel more stable now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, things have changed, but it's a stable change, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. As long as it's predictable, I guess. I think there's definitely an episode on relationships because obviously Tam and I are separated as well. That's its own fun. But I remember telling the news to them, I was like, look, me and mummy are still friends, and we're still your parents and we still love you. But it just means that we're not going to be kissing and cuddling anymore. And India went, yes!
Oh, did she?
Yeah. India hates kisses and likes cuddles, hates kisses. So it was like, that was it. That was the obviously we've got, more with snoozing trauma for further down the line, I'm sure, but at some point. But
yeah,
at that moment they were pretty okay, fine, because we're still around and we're still co-parent very equally in their life. Yeah, well, maybe we'll do another episode on that further down the line when I'm able to fully articulate what's.
Yeah, I think you
I'm
should.
still processing it. Yeah, I've got a few what the flip moments.
Yes, please.
Obviously, so I was because Jay's been very angry lately, and it's been quite a problem. So I was kind of talking to him about his anger and how he can manage it, and he stopped arguing with me, and he just went quiet, and I'm talking to him, and I'm like, this is it. He's finally actually at least listening. He's finally acknowledging it as a problem and not being defensive. He went completely quiet and he paused for a little bit. And then he went, I can't believe that no one has thought of a pedal-powered wheelchair. And it was like, hang on. You just zoned out, didn't you? You weren't actually reflecting on anything I said. You weren't listening. And also, people in wheelchairs are very often not able to effectively use their legs for pedals.
Yeah.
And he went, no, they use their arms because I'd always prefer to use my arms for that kind of thing. It's like, okay, you've thought it through then. It's all nailed. Fine.
Oh, that's a good one.
And the other one I had this week, I just literally today had a parents' evening for Jay. And I said, I'm going to go in to talk to your teacher today. Is there anything you want me to kind of ask him or tell him? And he went, yeah. What kind of coffee does he drink? And I was like, why?
I love this kid.
Why? And he went, well, he's got a jar of coffee on his desk and I often smell it to calm down. So I raised it with his teacher. He didn't know. So Jay is secretly sneaking off, like getting a little sniff of his teacher's coffee and then popping it, a little weird coffee sniffer in the classroom. I don't know what that looks like to the other kids in his class. Oh,
and it calms him down.
Yeah, no. Oh, he's off on the coffee again.
Yeah.
So we've ordered him some of the coffee, the same brand coffee, so he can calm down in his own room. Okay, so that is the end of Neuroshambles. Firstly, Hattie, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your neuroshambolic lifestyle. Is there anything, because you're doing an Edinburgh show this year. So do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, I'm doing a show at Edinburgh Fringe. It's called Hatty Ashdown.
Yes, nice.
And it's something different from what I normally do. So, but I won't be doing the whole run, guys. So if you're coming up, you can only catch me from the 15th to the 25th.
Okay.
So nobody can afford the whole Fringe anymore.
That's August, by the way, for non-comedians.
Of August, yeah, of August. I will be doing other festivals before Edinburgh. So look out for me in a town near you.
Right. I'll put a link to your website in the show notes if you want. And then,
otherwise, yes, listen to my podcast, Funny Mummies.
Yes.
And I talk to comedian mums who are comedians, producers, directors, writers, all sorts. Yeah, and I have a lunchtime comedy club called Scream with Laughter where people can bring their babies to comedy clubs.
Oh, nice. Where is that?
At the moment, I only have 2 venues. I have one in Balham at the Bedford.
Oh, nice. It's a great venue.
I've got a new one starting at the end of March, the last Wednesday in March, which I think is the 27th, at the Signature Brew in Haggerston. Got Laura Smith, Mike Akadiri. So we have top lineups. We always have very good lineups.
Great.
That's keeping me busy, and I'm learning to drive.
Oh, yeah, nice. You've got it all going on.
I
Excellent.
know.
I'll give a shout out to the Neuroshambles socials, Facebook, Instagram, Reddit and Threads if you want to contact us there, or if you want to email us, it's hello@neuroshambles.com. I think it's time to thank you, the audience, for listening. I really appreciate you guys listening to the show and sharing it and letting other people know. It's a thing of beauty. So thank you for that. And all that remains for me to say now is have a nice life.